you mentioned in the book about the studies done how women also they take smaller steps to figure out problems. They have a longer term outlook and it's more of a gradual thing, whereas men tend to lean more towards taking bigger, trying to fix things all at once.
Yeah, there's this idea of explaining the difference between divergent and convergent leadership and approach to problem solving. So men are more likely to take a convergent approach. Men are more likely to take a convergent approach and try to focus in on converging in on the problem. What is the problem we need to solve? How can we solve this problem as efficiently and quickly as possible? That's obviously a very useful strategy in many occasions, but here's the value of the opposite of that. Women take a more divergent approach. So they pull on threads, things that may seem tangential, things that may not seem essential to the problem solving. But in doing so, they're painting a bigger picture. They're understanding the forest rather than just focusing in on the tree. And so what I have found is that actually plays into adaptability as well. If you've taken the time to go down those rabbit holes, to explore these things that are not directly attached to solving the problem immediately, then when the situation changes, you'll be at an advantage because you will have already taken the time to understand the landscape better. So the situation changes, and all of a sudden this thing that seemed tangential is now really central to the challenge. So I think that divergent versus convergent is really important to understand. And the fact that men and women tend to have these different approaches is one reason why collaboration between men and women is found to be so effective and drive such successful outcomes. So I think that's the key thing here, is that we all need to be aware of these different models of leadership and also partnering with people who think differently than we do.
This divergent model, though, that women tend to take is, again, it's sort of a longer time frame of getting people together on to make a decision. And then at the same time, you write about how women have to struggle with what you call the confirmatory standard, right? And can you explain what a confirmatory standard is? It's like women always having to confirm with people around them that they know what they're doing. That was
yes. So there are these two standards that really impact women. There's the minimum standard, and then there's the confirmatory standard. So the minimum standard is the lower standard, the like, wow, you're not an idiot standard. And it's a lot easier for women to impress people like, oh, gee, you actually know what you're doing. And I write about this in the context actually of Gwyneth Paltrow, who's a fascinating case study. And she got plenty of what we call these head pats. So like, wow, you're not an idiot. You actually are good at running your company. Head pats.
She got the what you call the stereotype threat, correct?
Yes. Yeah. She didn't want to fulfill the stereotype that she was not going to be a serious CEO because she had come from a background in Hollywood. So the minimum standard is that. And that's why we see, and it's easier for women to meet that minimum standard because there is this expectation that they're not going to be good at business because of the stereotypes. So that is why we see plenty of women being interviewed for roles. So if you have a candidate pool, you're going to see a lot of women being included in that candidate pool. But women are much less likely to be chosen from that candidate pool and get given a senior role because of this higher standard, which is called the confirmatory standard. And that is the higher standard that women must reach to disprove the stereotype that women aren't as good at business. So they may reach the you're not an idiot role easier, but it's much harder for them to say, I am so impressive that I'm overcoming this long entrenched stereotype that women are less good at business as men are. And that's this higher standard that women have to reach in any male dominated field.